Hello everyone, this is Grandmaster Ahmed, and this is the third episode and the third lecture. It's not a mini lecture talking about what's so-called the Reti opening, and we're still dealing with this d5 idea, but we are done with d5 e6 structure, either Catalan or without Catalan, with c6 or with c5. I mean, you can rewatch or watch again the first two episodes of this playlist or this course. So after c4, we will talk about d takes c4. Now you have two options. Either you play Queen's Gambit accepted, which means you go e3, bishop takes c4, and then d4. I mean, after d4, d5, c4, dc, knight f3, e3, bishop takes. It's going to be the same position. Or you play the fourth played move, and most likely your opponent will not be prepared against after dc4 is to play this interesting move, knight a3. And after this knight a3, we have 5 moves, either knight f6 as you can see, or e5, or a6, or c5, or g6 in this position. We will briefly discuss all of them. So let's start with this e5. This e5 looks interesting at the first glance. Okay, you're attacking bishop takes a3, and you're kind of giving a pawn in order to speed up the development, and it's kind of tricky. So you cannot take because I'll take, and if you take, then queen d4, and forking the rook and the knight. But this is not true. Why this is not true? Because after e5, I can take, but after bishop takes a3, now white has a very interesting idea. Try to find it out so it will be stuck in your mind after this. It's just queen a4. And remember this idea. It's actually repeated either here in Reti or in many openings. This check, and then queen takes a3. Next, I will save the pawn structure. No more queen d4. Queen d4, I can play knight, for example, f3, and I'm completely fine. So this e5 is nonsense. So other than e5, your opponent might try a6, trying to force stuff. Threatening for sure b5, so knight takes c4 speaks for itself, and after b5 I go back knight e3. Many weaknesses now. Black already committed on the queen side, and another idea is he kind of lacks the development. Why? Because he kind of cared too much about the development of the bishop. He played d5 in order to improve the bishop, but then he played b5 in order again to improve the bishop. But what about the rest of the pieces? He's kind of neglecting them. So after knight e3, bishop b7, I stick to the normal idea, which is g3, in order to play bishop to g2 and castling. If I can manage to play so, I'll go bishop g2, castling, d3, bishop d2, bring the rook, maybe queen c2, bring the other rook, and you're completely fine. You have a huge pressure here on the c5. But if he plays bishop takes f3, which trying to change the structure, and said, okay, he has more pawn islands now, I am a better in-game player, I can now to play him, like this is the black's logic. It's completely untrue. White has the lead in development first, which is very important, has the better pawn structure, which is very important as well, and most important in this position, the weaknesses on the queen side for black. After I complete the development, bishop g2, castling f4, d3, say for example, I will start attacking like a4, b4, rook c1, attack on c7, attack on b5, attack on a6, and this diagonal is too weak. That's why a6, b5 is not that great for black. So the third move we will discuss is knight f6. After knight f6, we will pick up the pawn, and g6 is applied. Whenever you can oppose this bishop here from g7 with the bishop from b2, it will be great. And later on, probably we will discuss about that in the King's Indian structure. We'll still not discuss it. Maybe we are, because you might watch us in the future. After knight f3, knight f6, c4, g6, we will be recommending not b3 here, but b4, more promising. Anyways, let's get back to our structure. After knight a3, we said knight f6, we take, and after g6, we said we go b3. Why b3? In order to play bishop b2 and exchange these two bishops, which is going to make this king kind of weaker. Bishop g7, I'll go simply bishop to b2, and after castling, almost always, except some exceptions for sure is there, but we go g3. The idea is simple. We go bishop g2, we castled, we go rook c1. For example, an explanatory line. After b6, bishop g2, bishop b7, castling c5, I go rook c1. Remember this. It's a general rule, but it's going to improve your chess understanding as well. Before you go for the center strike, which should be the aim of your opening, especially if you're white, or especially if you play something like knight f3 followed by c4. try to prepare as much as possible before you're doing that. Because after that being done, you don't have too many options. You don't have time to make options. So after rook c1, knight c6, say you strike in the center, because okay, you might say, but I mean, following your rule, rook e1 looks interesting. No, it's not. It's not interesting, because I mean, this rook is doing nothing after d4. So, but this rook is doing something after d4. After the exchanging, it's going to be on the open file. So I'll go d4, and for example, after knight takes d4, knight d4, bishop g2, king g2, c d4, queen d4. How about this ending? This ending is, first of all, risk-free for white. You are playing without any risk of losing. Why? Because you have the slight advantage, but what makes your position kind of easier to play psychologically, that you're always going to be either better, or black is going to fight for 10 moves, 20 moves in order just not to lose, because of some ideas like rook c7 or rook d1, rook d7, because you kind of ahead in development. You're coming first to the file. This square is very weak. For example, ideas like knight e5, knight c6 is going to be annoying somehow, but you will organize your thoughts and you have a slight advantage at least. So that's for this line, and now it's time to go for the main line. After knight f3, d5, c4, say dc4, we go knight a3 again, and most likely this is the most principled move. Why c5? In order to play knight c6, fighting to control the d4 square. I will take the pawn for sure, and after knight c6 again, I will go this idea g3. Normally the bishop will have this diagonal, and another rule of thumb, whenever you see c5, this is a sign of, okay, this bishop belongs to this diagonal. So after c5, g3, f6, trying to have what's so-called the 𝒉𝒊𝒔 bind structure. Bishop g2, e5, d3, bishop e6. We castle, knight g7, for example. We go b3, knight d5, bishop to b2, and now bishop e7. And here, it's a very, very important. It's not only about Reti, it's all about chess as well. Here in this position, many chess players tend to play kind of, I wanted to mention them as half moves. Like, for example, rook c1. Why rook c1? I don't know. Like castling a3. Why a3? I wanted to play queen c2 next. And then rook fd1. And then queen b1. And then queen a1. What are you doing, my friend? I don't know. Like, I'm just kind of waiting and improving my pieces. Actually, or honestly, you're not improving your pieces. You're showing that you don't know anything about this position. So here, if you play a classical game and you don't know what to do, you should spend at least half an hour trying to find a plan, an idea. Even though if you did not find, or if you did not manage to find a plan, at least you will analyze the game, and the plan that you're going to find, either with your coach or with the help of the engine, it will stick there forever. This way you're learning. But playing some half moves, this is actually what sometimes slow or make your improvement kind of slow, or make you maybe a weak player somehow. So now this is a very nice plan. Knight e1, and after knight e1 castling, the point is I want to strike in the center with this f4 idea, but still I don't like this knight being here. So first of all, I'll kick the knight away, and after knight c7, I will go f4 with the help of the bishop and the knight and the pawn. Also, always attacking the e5 square. So sooner or later, black has to take. I'll take back with the pawn, and now this position is very promising for white. Why? I have the g file here, king h1, rook g1 ideas. I'll move the bishop, probably bishop f3. The queen can join the attack simply. Why? Queen e2, queen f2, queen g3. I can even double on the g file, bringing the other rook to the game, while black really lacks plans. But wait a second, I don't like my position, the d3 pawn is weak. Come on, if you wanted to improve in chess, you need to improve this mentality. What mentality? The mentality of accepting some weak spots, but on the other hand, you have some strength on the board. So here, this is right, this is a weak pawn, but there is another question, which most likely beginners stop there. No, I have a weak pawn, my position is not good. No, your position is good, because you stop before you ask the right question. The right question, not whether you have a weak pawn or not. The right question is, can my opponent make use of that weakness? This is the right and the exact question. And the answer is no. Because after knight b4, or if knight b4 now, you simply can kick him away with a3. If he doubled or tripled on the d file, you can always have this idea of d3. Queen e2, rook d1, you always have. Rook f6 or rook f3, sorry, you always have. So you have many defensive resources if needed, and it's not actually needed because you're protecting with the knight, and the knights cannot attack the pawn here on d3. So this is for that. I hope this lecture or this mini video or mini lecture kind of useful for you. If you find it useful and you want to learn more about this Reti opening, which is very interesting, very flexible, very dynamic, you can check out the playlist on your left, I do believe. And if you want to continue this with us, this journey of learning and mastering the Reti, on your right, don't forget to subscribe. And reminding you, I have a Chessable course on this great opening, so I will leave the link in the description if you want to add more knowledge to your, or more weapons to your arsenal. Thank you for watching. See you soon.